Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Shit's about to hit the fan. Welcome to Unsanctioned Thursdays on Wrestling with Freddie.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unsanctioned Thursday, the show that you demanded and you received. So see, it's good to just be demanding and impolite and yell and scream and not go, hey, could we please have some extra time? That doesn't work. You got to go, this show sucks, man. It's not long enough. And then we listen and we're like, yeah, all right. Because the squeaky wheel gets the grease on this podcast. With me, as always, Mr. Jeff Dye. How are you, Jeff? What's up, Biceps? How you doing, baby?
Feeling good, buddy. Happy to be here. Great. Wrestling's been great lately, which means we're in good spirits.
Not everyone's in good spirits, Jeff, because contract negotiations are tense, sometimes contentious. It's a great word, contentious. And they suck. And that's why lawyers and agents are important. I don't think enough wrestlers have representation. A lot of them negotiate themselves, especially when they're young. They don't want to give up that 5% if it's a lawyer, 10% if it's an agent, 15% sometimes with a manager. All of a sudden, after taxes, you're looking at less than half of the money that you got. So young actors, young musicians, young artists in general usually get screwed on early deals because they don't have the right representation, or they have representation that's either inexperienced or they don't have their best interests at heart. They're trying to maintain a relationship with the studio. They're trying to maintain a relationship with the team, things like that. Like, you can have the wrong representation. That happens too. And the reason we're talking about this is because Karrion, Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux's contracts are up. WWE has moved their likenesses to the alumni page, which means they are no longer under contract. I think the word on the street is people believe they're free agents and they can sign anywhere. I'm going to tell you guys what I think is probably going on based on my experience in this business, my knowledge of how TKO operates from a certain level of knowledge. I don't know exactly how they operate, but I know how they do things on the UFC side a lot of times, and I know how studios negotiate pre-corporate and post-corporate takeover. So I'll throw that out there. Jeff, feel free to jump in and comment and ask questions or call bullshit on anything you want. And we're going to start right now. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think this is how WWE negotiates. I think they're very public with the things they leak. I think they leak with intent to apply pressure to talent. Sometimes I think talent has to leak things because they have to get their side of the story out there. These things are very public. It happens in sports as well. But here's what I think happened. And I'm going to go based off the last experience that I had in a negotiation I Know What You Did Last Summer. That was a pleasant one, oddly enough. But most of the time, the first number you get sent is incredibly low. And they'll concrete that by saying, and this is the best we can do. This is our best offer. There's no more money in the budget. That is 100% of the time complete and total bullshit. Never believe that if you're a young artist. Never believe that. There is always more money. This I know for a fact. Corporations have now changed the way they negotiate with artists on television shows, on movies, on everything. Instead of looking at the quote the artist has earned over time, the quote being how much money they're due per show, per episode or per movie or per year in wrestling, they have now, instead of valuing the client, they value the position. And they say this role or this position in the company is worth $30,000 an episode. Take it or leave it. And you go in there, you go, whoa, my salary is $100,000 an episode or $1 million a movie or whatever the quote that's been earned. And they say, we know that and we totally understand that. But this is how much role we feel, how valuable this role is in the script, and that's all the money there is in the budget. This is total horseshit, and we can go even deeper if you want. There's some actors that are guilty of this kind of corporate nonsense too, because they're taking the majority of the money, and everybody else is getting treated like a guest star instead of a series regular, even though they're working like a series regular. There's a lot of shows, and I don't throw people under the bus, but you guys can figure it out. When one dude's making $40 million and everyone else is making $14,000. That's not good. Yeah. So here's what I think happened. I think a disgusting offer was made. It's hard not to take this stuff personally as an artist, but my uncle, who was like Richard Pryor's manager, he was my dad's manager. He's Fluffy's manager these days. He always said, you have to be two-minded in show business. You have to have a businessman's mind and an artist's mind. And the artist is always going to think the businessman is cruel and preventative of making art. And the businessman is going to think the artist is a pussy. His words, not mine. And you have to allow both those things to exist. At the end of the day, and he said this too, this is show business. Which word's bigger? And when I was 12, that didn't mean anything to me. I was just like, well, business, duh. And then we moved on. But when I got into the business, I was like, oh, they're just in it to make money. That was true then. Post-corporate buyouts, it's 10 times more true. They want labor as cheap as possible so that their bonus is as big as possible. It's all about a profit margin. It is not about art. TKO does not want to make great wrestling. They want to make great amounts of money. Regardless of how it's earned, they want to make great amounts of money. This is true in every studio movie now. This is true on every television show now, except, the A24